Hey Astro Lover, welcome back to I Talk to Planets. This is your host, Claire Gallagher, astrologer, author, and cosmic business strategist. Welcome back to our Planet Power business series. This is part 8, which is our final episode of this series. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed making it. It has been so fun and so awesome. I hope you found it really helpful. As a refresher, we have 3 overarching phases when it comes to building a Planet Power business. We have clarify, which is what you do, who you do it for, and why and how. We have codify, which is all about systems and structures that create a sustainable and profitable business. And we have amplify, which is the final phase and what we are finishing up with today. Amplify is all about business growth, and the majority of this goes into marketing, but also hiring and collaborating, as well as planning, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, as a reminder, it's really, really important that you go in order when you're building a business. You need to clarify first, then codify, and then you can amplify. Otherwise, you're going to get all mixed up. You're going to create services that really don't stand a chance, and you're going to be marketing this and then marketing that and marketing this, and people are going to get confused. So make sure you go back to phase 1 first. So astrological planning is a massive topic. I've actually done an extensive course, actually wrote a book on this and then turned it into a course, and I only kept it around for a little while. Maybe I should bring it back. But my point is, it's a massive topic that I'm hopefully going to make bite-sized today. I have a lot more I could say on this. It could be its own workshop, course, series, book, etc., as I've already said. But today we're just doing this in a short podcast episode. So again, remember that I'm taking this kind of out of context, but I'm hopefully going to give you some actionable steps that you can start with right away. We're talking about setting goals with astrology today, and you can do that on an annual scale, but today I suggest starting with a quarterly focus. So quarter 1 of 2026 is what we're going to be using for our example today. So I highly recommend you cap it to a quarter so that this isn't overwhelming. So the first step in astrological planning is to forget about astrology. I'm so serious. Step 1 in my little framework here is the Who Cares About Astrology brain dump. I want you to get out your journal or your notebook or just a scrap piece of paper and write down all of the wild ideas that you want to consider in your business for the next little while, whether that's a quarter or a year or something shorter or longer. Write down all of the big fun things, but also make sure you write down what must happen, what absolutely has to happen in order for your business to run, and also things that are on the calendar already. So get them all out on paper, and then we're going to funnel them through the astrology and see what has the most support. So the hypothesis here is that the things with the most support are going to be the easiest to complete and the most successful. So we want to prioritize and schedule those things instead of the others. Okay, so we're going to play with an example brain dump today, and we're going to take this list through our entire framework. And here is what's on the list. Create an Instagram business card using pinned posts. Build my email list, including automations. Get back on Pinterest and pin all of my blog posts. Restructure my website. Move website platforms. Start on LinkedIn. Do as many guest podcast spots as possible. Write an online course to reduce one-to-one client work. That's a lot to do, especially if this is a quarterly plan. Right? So we want to whittle this down and make it realistic for this person. And we also want to align it with the astrology so that this person is doing the things that are probably going to be the easiest and most successful. So how do we determine what things align with the astrology? Well, we need to know the astrology first. So step 2 is to gather the astrological facts. First, we need to broaden our focus to glance at your entire year. So from birthday to birthday is what I mean by year in astrology. So the first thing you want to know is what's your house of the year? And also from there, who is your planet of the year or time lord? Now, I'm not going to go over this today. I've done multiple podcast episodes on how to determine this. I'm going to link them in the description. But this is where I want you to start. And this is a technique called annual profections. So again, you want to know your house of the year, house 1 through 12, and who your time lord or your planet of the year is. Some other things you're going to want to know is what house is Jupiter transiting in your natal chart. So Jupiter in the real-time sky is somewhere, okay? It's moving through the zodiac, and that correlates with a particular house in your chart. I want you to know what house that is. This is an area of expansion and experimentation. Now, on the other hand, I want you to also know where real-time Saturn is transiting in your natal chart. This is going to be an area of focus and effort. The next thing I want you to know is where the eclipses will be occurring in your chart. These are going to be areas of shakeup and instability and change. And some optional pieces that I'm not going to go over today, but I think are relevant, are any significant outer planet transits that you are having. So for example, if Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto is transiting one of your natal visible planets, I would want to incorporate that into your plan. I would also want to know if there's any significant retrogrades from Mars, Venus, or Mercury, and what houses those would be happening in your natal chart. So that's step 2. That might be the hardest step if you're not an astrologer, which is why we exist, is to gather all the astrological facts. Now, step 3 is to match your plans with the planets. And we're going to go back to our example brain dump list and start matching and seeing what we get. So your main storylines, and if this is all you do, this is enough. Like, you want to know your house of the year and your planet of the year, and then compare your list with what that house would represent in terms of to-dos and what that planet would put on its to-do list, and cross things off or highlight things using that information. Okay, so in our example chart, the house of the year is the 6th house, and the time lord or the planet of the year is Jupiter. So what this means is that 6th house activities, anything on our brain dump list that correlates with the 6th house, will have the most support. So this is going to be general stuff in the realms of organization, routines, and workflows. Anything that's going to reduce busy work and create a system we want to focus on. So from our example brain dump list, that would include create an Instagram business card using pinned posts and build my email list, including automations, because those things reduce busy work and they're creating a system that'll last for a while. Now, what about the planet of the year, which is Jupiter? This means that Jupiter type activities are going to have support too. Jupiter is the planet of growth and expansion and broadening horizons. So I want you to ask, when you're looking at your to-do list, would my time lord do this? Would my planet of the year do this thing? Would Jupiter do this? So if we're looking at our list, I think Jupiter would put a check, another check next to build my email list, including automations, because this is about growing your audience, growing your subscriber list, and that's something Jupiter would definitely do. I also think Jupiter would highlight do as many guest podcast spots as possible, because this is going to get you in front of new people and you're going to reach, which is a Jupiter word, new audiences. Now let's talk about the natal house that transiting Saturn is moving through. At the time of this recording, Saturn is finishing up its time in Pisces and it is going into Aries very soon, okay? So in this example chart, it's going to be straddling the 6th house and the 7th house. So what does this mean? This is an area of focus and refinement. So Saturn is going to put daily routine and workflows to the test. It's also going to create a lot of focus around one-to-one client relationships, because that's what the 7th house represents in business. So things that will be reinforced by Saturn on our to-do list include create an Instagram business card using pinned posts, build my email list, including automations, but it's also going to tell us what not to do, things we can scratch off of our list. I would not focus on write an online course to reduce one-to-one client work during this time. Saturn is saying we want to focus and refine client work during this time, not remove client work during this time. Let's go back to Jupiter for a second. We've already talked about Jupiter because it's the planet of the year, but even if it's not your planet of the year, we want to know where Jupiter is transiting in your natal chart because it's going to highlight an area of expansion and experimentation. At the time of this recording, Jupiter is in Cancer, and in our example chart, that means it's transiting the 10th house of profession. This is a really nice transit, all about increasing your visibility, your reach, and improving your professional reputation. It's kind of like a green light to take all sorts of professional risks. So I would say take advantage of this, take advantage of this. So it's going to reinforce a few things on our to-do list. We're going to get, yet again, another check for build my email list, including automations. We're going to get another check in do as many guest podcast spots as possible. And then we have some question marks, like maybe we could go back to Pinterest. Yeah, that's a form of expansion. And maybe we could go to LinkedIn. Yeah, that's a form of expansion. But I would say only if there's a system involved, because remember, the house of the year is the 6th. So we don't want to just add new social media channels on there just as an afterthought. They really need to be incorporated into a 6th house workflow. So we're going to just put question marks next to Pinterest and LinkedIn. Now we want to see where the eclipses are going to be occurring. Now these are going to be places of shakeup and instability. So at the time of this recording, the next upcoming eclipse is a new moon solar eclipse in Aquarius, which is going to land in the 5th house of our example chart. So this correlates with creativity, which in business usually means new products or new services. So what does this mean? This means that we can expect shiny object syndrome to pop up in the form of a new product or a new service idea. I suggest just writing it down and saving it for next quarter. The next eclipse in order is a full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, which will be happening in the 12th house in our example chart. The 12th house is about rest, recovery, and stepping back. So when I'm thinking about having a full moon lunar eclipse in the 12th house during this quarter, I'm going to make sure I schedule in some rest time, maybe even a mini vacation. And finally, I want you to check for any relevant retrogrades during the quarter. And we do have one coming up in quarter 1, which is going to be in every quarter, more or less, is Mercury retrograde. And Mercury retrograde will be in Pisces, occurring in the 6th house in our example chart. This will be February 26th through March 20th. So this retrograde would be a good time to do all that behind the scenes planning of this person's Instagram pinned post strategy, or the drafting of their automated email sequence. So the Mercury retrograde isn't really telling us what to do or not do with our quarterly plan. It's more telling us when to do it. Step 4 is to tally up all the celestial support and see which tasks have the most. So if we go back to our list, we have a couple check marks for create an Instagram business card using pinned posts. We have a lot of check marks for build my email list, including automations. We have a maybe next to Pinterest. We have a no on restructure my website and a no on move website platforms because none of the planets indicated that that was something that needed to be a focus. We have a maybe next to start on LinkedIn. We have quite a few check marks next to do as many guest podcast spots as possible. And we have a no from do an online course instead of one-to-one client work. So our clear winners with the most cosmic support are to create an Instagram business card using pinned posts, build the email list with automations, and do as many guest podcast spots as possible. So we took a really big quarterly to-do list and we whittled it down to 3 priorities, which are going to be realistic, easier to do, and more successful because they have planetary support behind them. So again, your next steps would be to schedule them on your calendar, and when to do what really depends on quicker and shorter astrological cycles like the lunar cycle or aspects happening between planets, which is beyond the scope of today's episode. Now it's your turn. I want you to do a brain dump, a Who Cares About Astrology brain dump. Put all of the things you want to do next quarter on the list, gather the astrological facts, and then start matching your plans and planets. Whittle your list down to at least 3 things. I would say 3 is the maximum, 3 things that you can really focus on next quarter. Thank you so much for listening or watching this Planet Power Business series. I've had an absolute blast exploring these topics with you. If you are an intuitive entrepreneur and you want to work with me and reset your business using the cosmos, come and see me at astrologywithclaire.com. All right, I'll talk to you next week.